Hey, everybody. So, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I'm a fan of, is a popular science communicator. And recently, he made some ethical commentary about being vegetarian. So, I thought I would take the opportunity to react to his video. Let's check it out.
Well, let me work my way there for a moment. Okay, so this landed in the book. Let's say you don't like killing animals.
Right.
Maybe that's why you're a vegetarian. Okay, nothing wrong with that as a point of philosophy. And many such people who live in homes might have mouse traps in their basement that are humane. You've heard of humane mouse
Of
traps. It
course.
doesn't snap the neck.
Oh.
All right,
Catch and release.
Trap, catch and release. But if you analyze this, you realize that the life expectancy of the mouse in the wild is between 9 and 18 months. So what you've done is shorten the life of the mouse. So if you really cared about the life of that mouse, you would welcome it into your basement and have it bring all its friends while it's at it.
Yeah, so a person who is, a person who cares about animals isn't just only going to care about that mouse, right? Like they're going to care about the animals that normally eat the mouse. So I think what the person who is very loving of animals would do is generally just not interfere with nature.
It's not really about the mouse, it's about you.
And how
See,
you feel.
it's how you
Okay.
feel. It's why,
Okay. You saved the mouse after.
So I think that's true to a certain extent, right? Like we do these things that we believe to be moral, um, and it makes us feel better, right? Whether or not it making us feel better is the primary motivation is another question.
Imagine aliens that photosynthesize like plants.
right.
Okay. So they're actually plant based sentient life instead of meat based
Meat-based.
sentient life. Okay.
Right.
So they thrive on sun lamps that
Right.
are in their ship or on their host star. So if they come to Earth, like what would they observe? So the funny part is they would see the meat eaters and wouldn't really fully understand them.
Right.
All right. They're these meat-based creatures killing other meat-based creatures for their survival, but they won't really care because they're only going to care about their own brethren, which are the plants.
Well, that's not necessarily true, right? That's an assumption that you're building into this hypothetical. They may not actually identify more closely and care more about the plants on our planet, right? They may care about the animals more because the animals are the ones that are sentient, right? So the assumption that's built into the hypothetical here is that since the aliens are plants, they will care more about plants, right? Versus these plant aliens are sentient and therefore they're going to care more about other sentient creatures on our planet.
What they observe is that this subset of humans, we call them vegetarians, specifically target the reproductive organs of the plants.
Right.
The seeds, the nuts, the
Yes.
berries, the
Yes.
flowers, all the things the plant is just trying to make another version of itself. Then they go by the produce aisle at Whole Foods or any large grocery store would have this, and then they see what people are especially buying.
Right.
There's a bit of infanticide going
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Why? Because the people are seeking out baby spinach, the baby versions of everything, and the bean sprouts. So they would just completely freak, and they run away.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of this hypothetical because there's too much built into it, right? Like the moral argument against eating meat, or at least one of them, is that well, like animals can suffer, and we treat them very poorly, especially in factory farms, and you want to support the industry, and so you eat plants, right? And the assumption is that plants don't really suffer because they're not sentient. So sentience is a precondition for suffering. Now, are the aliens, the plant aliens, going to have that philosophy? Is that going to be their justification for, their behaviors? Like, I don't know. Because if that was built in, then this whole hypothetical wouldn't make sense.
Cosmic perspective makes you look at things fresh, because someone coming in, seeing our tree of life, doesn't have a species bias coming in.
Well, it's not necessarily a species bias that we're operating with, right? It's maybe a sentience bias, if you want to call it a bias.
at
Exactly.
all.
Right.
And they're going to wonder, so here you are saving the mouse in your basement, okay? But what's your house made of? Well, it's made of the wood from 50 trees that might have lived 100 years, but they were cut down halfway through their lives. Each tree produces 15 times the mass of the mouse in oxygen every day. But
Right.
no, you cut them down to make your floorboards, your wall panels, your 2x4s, your structural members, your wall sidings. They're home for all manner of forest creatures, the
That's right.
birds, squirrels.
So I think what he's trying to point out now is vegetarians being hypocritical in their behavior. Like they want to save, well, they don't want to harm animals, but at the same time, they'll live in houses built out of wood, and those trees would have housed animals, but now those animals are suffering because they don't have that tree to live in. I think that's the point he's trying to make.
And so we can ask the question, who do you think nature cares more about?
Right.
The tree
That's
that
right.
might live 1,000 years,
Well, nature wouldn't care about anything, right? Because you would have to be a person in order to care. And nature's not a person.
or 100 years,
Right.
or the 1-ounce mouse that you just saved from getting its neck snapped. Look at the big picture first, and then go pick and choose what you want to eat and what you don't want to eat.
Yeah, I think looking at the big picture is wise advice. I think people who want to maximize their positive influence on the world should look at the big picture. Yep, absolutely. It's difficult to do, though.
And what you want to kill
Yeah.
and what you don't want to kill.
I get it. A lot of it has to do with consciousness, and a lot of it has to do with how people feel, philosophy, how they feel.
Philosophy.
It's
The people say we value our lives because we have a beating heart, and then the
Correct.
trees don't. And then I'll say, maybe it's not that the tree is missing a beating heart. Maybe the tree simply doesn't need
a beating heart. Because
No, it's about sentience. It's not about a beating heart. If trees suddenly became sentient, then their moral status would significantly increase, right? At least according to philosophers. Okay, so here are some final thoughts. First, I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he's a good communicator, and I think we're better off having somebody like him to communicate science. Second, I'm not really a fan of the thought experiment of plant aliens. I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to give us, again, like a cosmic perspective on things. And honestly, this is something that philosophers do all the time. Philosophers think of thought experiments every single day because we think it's useful to make points and to make arguments. And the reason why I'm not that big of a fan of this hypothetical, the thought experiment, is because he doesn't address the core of the argument, which is sentience, right? I think a lot of vegetarians, they don't want to support the meat industry because, and underlying that, it's because the meat industry treats animals very poorly and it causes a lot of suffering, right? But sentience is a precondition for suffering, which plants don't have, right? That's the assumption, right? That may change in the future, right? In which case, then we're kind of screwed. We gotta kill something and eat something, right? All right, I think I'm going to end it here. I hope you found that interesting, and I'll see you all next time.